May mga time na nagka-crash na lang ako sa office, tas umiiyak ako while doing slides. Kasi sobrang pagod. Oo, kasi like may major presentation kinabukasan and then nasa office kami and then habang gumagawa ng slides yung iiyak umiiyak na lang ako bigla because I felt the exhaustion.
So for this episode, we'll talk about career goals. Para sa mga nagka-climb ng corporate ladder, ito na yung episode na para sa inyo. Hi! Welcome to Goals with Anne, helping you achieve your goals. I'm Anne and I'm here to provide you with motivation, inspiration, and step-by-step guides from real-life experiences that will help you reach your goals and live your best life. Whether you're aiming to achieve your goals around hustle, money, productivity, or achieving your ultimate life goals, this is the podcast for you. For this episode, we will be joined by a special guest. He's one of my closest friends. He is currently based in Singapore and joining us in this episode. And he's working for a multinational media agency. Hi, EJ.
Hi, Anne!
This is the second episode of the Goals with Anne podcast, and our title for this episode is Crushing Your Corporate Career Goals, Your Journey on Climbing the Career Ladder. So, are you excited to talk about this topic?
Super excited. We've always been talking about our careers, pag nagchichikahan tayo. But I just wanted to share also yung title mo kasi, like especially the climbing the corporate ladder. Right now, I believe that growth is really not always upwards because the phrase climbing up the ladder is assuming that for you to succeed, you have to go up. Pero kasi in reality, and from what I've seen, growth can be in any direction. It can be lateral, it can be diagonal. As long as you go out of your comfort zone, I think there's still growth there and there's still success there. So yun lang, it caught my attention lang yung climbing up the corporate ladder kasi hindi ko na rin siya ginagamit as a mindset. And if you think about it, and if you just tweak your mindset moving forward, na hindi ka na pressured laging ma-promote or laging palitan yung boss and the next boss and you just make sure that you're growing, I think that already changes a lot.
Grabe, thank you so much, EJ. Sobra ha, intro pa lang tayo, meron ng mga takeaway. So, different, hindi lang upward ang growth. Yan, yung isa sa
Yes.
mga nag-stick sa akin. And yung mindset, yung kailangan nating i-shift. Nasa umpisa pa lang, intro pa lang, ang dami na. Okay, pupul tayo pabalik. Balik tayo sa umpisa, EJ. I'm sure yung first sagot mo pa lang sa excited ka na ba dito, na-excite na rin yung mga listeners natin. Babalik ako sa umpisa. Paano ka nag-grow and focus tayo din sa journey mo, sa
Yeah.
career mo. So, yeah, let's start with the first question. Ano yung first job mo and ano yung mga natutunan mo dun sa first job mo?
First job, I was a mall marketing manager. So basically, when you go to a mall, di ba may activity center sa gitna? My role before was the one who coordinated with like events people who want to set up an activity. Basically, yun yung day-to-day ko. That was my first job. What I learned from it and was very useful for me moving forward is that if you realize that your personal goals or your career goals are not aligned with the company's goals, it's okay to quit and find a better opportunity. I think especially during our time when we were starting, meron pa ring negative notion if you don't stay in a company for at least a year or 2 years, ganyan. I wasn't in that company for a year even, pero I was just honest na parang wala na akong magagawa. I cannot control how the company's goals are gonna change and gonna fit my goals. So I'll just look for a better opportunity. So I think yung mindset na yun, it's not yung job hopping na tinatawag nila ngayon. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing as long as you know why you're going to another company. Yun lang. I think ever since my max number of years in a company was 2 years. I reevaluate my goals. If they're not aligned anymore, I shift to a better company. So that's a very important learning I had.
Okay, so siguro ang naiisip ng mga listeners natin, ang very lucky naman nito, values yung basehan niya ng ano niya, ng decision making sa career goals. Hindi ba naging consideration ang pay or was it easy for you to look for another job?
Oh, definitely money was a big priority. Not necessarily actually values ng company, but more of like goals ng company and my own goals. And my own goals, a chunk of it was like earning more money, essentially. As a fresh grad, syempre we wanted more money. And then my other friends were earning more money in the PNGs and the Nestle's of the world. So I was really like comparing myself with them. So definitely pay was a big thing, and that's why when I learned that by the next few years hindi ko pa rin ma-achieve yung goals ko if I stay with this company. So like basing on like historical bonuses, appraisals and whatever, I did my research, and then I just decided to shift to another company, and it's the same thing with the rest of the jobs I went into.
Okay, exciting. Grabe, ang dami ko sanang mga questions pero alam ko marami pa tayong mga magagandang questions dito na mas makakatulong pa. Okay, so next question ko is, ano yung one mistake that you made early on in your career na nagkaroon talaga ng malaking lesson na tumatak sa'yo?
So, yung mistake is not necessarily within my career, but how I managed my career. Kasi when I started my agency life, I decided mag-uwian from Makati to Cavite. If we have listeners from the province, from Cavite, you know the struggle is real. Because with traffic and everything, wala pang Cavitex that time, take note. So it was around 2 to 3 hours one way travel time. Kailangan mag-bus. I think like tatlong sakay ako, bus and transfer.
Grabe.
And that was the time when I went into agency life. And agency life is notoriously known for a lot of overtimes. So there would be periods where ang normal log out namin would be 1 a.m., 2 a.m. And then imagine, I still had to go home. Kailangan ko pa mag-commute. And then, matutulog for a few hours because I need to go back ng mga 8 a.m., 9 a.m. So that was, I tried that for a year.
Na
In
6
hindsight,
hours, na 4 to 6
oo.
hours?
Oo, I tried that for
Wow,
a
ang
year.
tindi.
Because in my head, parang why would I leave my house? Andun yung parents ko, yung family ko, may pagkain, libre yung pagkain. And like I'm in the comfort of my own house. But then again, eventually, nagmanifest na yung mga sakit. Pagod na pagod ako every time. I was just running on adrenaline pag may presentations. And then I realized parang hindi na worth it. And then I decided mag-boarding house na lang in Makati. And it actually turned out so well for me because may time na ako to rest at least. And then the concern about spending time with family was even more precious because we cherish the weekends. Umuwi na lang akong Cavite every weekend. And at dahil alam namin medyo limited yung time, then we get to bond more. Alam mo yun? So, it turned out for the better. But yeah, so ang main point ko dun is like, huwag tayong magpakamartyr. I know like additional expense yung pagre-rent and it cuts out of the budget. Pero if it's to save your physical, your mental health, I think that's always a priority. That should always a priority.
Yeah. Sabi mo kanina meron ng mga yung stress, running on adrenaline. Ano
Yeah.
yung trigger point mo na sinabi mo na, "Okay, this needs to stop. I need to look for another place to stay."
May mga time na nagka-crash na lang ako sa office, tapos umiiyak ako while doing slides. Kasi
As
sobrang
in walang
pagod.
random, gano'n?
Oo, kasi like may major presentation kinabukasan and then nasa office kami and then habang gumagawa ng slides, yung iiyak, iiyak na lang ako bigla because I felt the exhaustion. Alam mo yun?
Tapos
So,
iisipin mo pa na hindi pa tapos do'n kasi bibiyahe ka pa pauwi.
exactly. Kasi babiyahe pa ako pa uwi. Or I mean, may times na Nag-uulit ako ng damit kasi magstay na lang kami sa office. Magja-jacket na lang ako over my office clothes. So ang dami ng manifestations, like especially yung mga breakdown. Siyempre nagkakasakit din kasi kulang sa tulog. So yun talaga yung nag-push. Even my parents said na, "Oy, baka kailangan mo ng mag-rent." Talaga.
Yeah, okay, okay. Grabe, intense yun.
Grabe, triggered din ako.
Na-imagine.
Naalala ko yun.
Okay, sige. Dito na tayo sa personal journey mo. How you navigated through your career
Mm.
from a mall manager to becoming a regional director of a global creative ad agency. Ang taray. Siguro before that, magtatanong lang muna ako, ano ba yung scope of work ng isang regional director of a
Ah,
global creative ad agency? Yung mga hindi nakakaalam kung ano ba yung ad agency, ba't kailangan ganun kalala
right.
yung overtimes, ganyan.
Okay, actually, my job itself, ang hirap i-explain sa mga, because when you talk about advertising agency right now, ang common knowledge ay kami yung gumagawa ng commercials, essentially. I think, di ba?
Mhm.
Pero yung media agency specifically, and that's where I work, media agency yung basically naglalagay ng commercial sa TV. Kami yung bumibili ng placements sa digital, sa TV, sa mga billboards. Kami yon. So, meron kang creative agency, which is yung gumagawa ng commercial, and then meron kang media agency, which is naglalagay ng commercial sa mga nakikita nyo. Kaya yung mga listeners, kung nakikita nyo yung ad sa Facebook, kami yon. Or ad sa YouTube, kami yon. Pasensya na kung
Mhm.
disruptive yung ads. But basically, that's the media agency. The role itself, etong now I'm in Singapore, is a regional director. We take care of like Southeast Asia markets or Asia Pacific markets. So it depends kung may client ako na may presence sa Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia. I manage that account. Um, Essentially, stakeholder management, like, hey, client, what do you need? And then we will provide the services. Ganun yung like simplified scope. Very different when you talk about overtimes though. Very different yung culture between Singapore and Philippines. And that was like a
Mhm.
major shift for me when kasi agency pa rin ako pareho, but Philippines agency life versus Singapore, very, very different.
Okay. Mas ang dami kong gustong itanong diyan, but also conscious of time and wala pa tayo sa meaty
Ay,
part
oo
of
nga.
things. So, okay, dun tayo sa personal journey mo. Can you share your personal journey, how you navigated through your career from a mall manager to, I'm not sure if you're comfortable sharing the ad agency name, but I'll leave it to you. Can
Sure.
you walk us through it?
Yeah, so I started mall manager. I graduated business administration, so essentially anything business management related. I wanted to go into the P&Gs and the Nestle's, but I wasn't. Um, I didn't pass interviews, so I started with this mall. It's a big mall, but focused more on events. Didn't align with my goals, so I shifted to another real estate company, more on open houses of condos naman. So, mas maiksi yung time ko dun sa second na yun because I was like, sure, there was a bump in salary, but essentially the work itself, I wasn't really fulfilled. Also wasn't meeting my like career goals. And then that's when I shifted to one of my close friends was working in a media agency. And that's when I applied. She said, let's go. Okay dito, super fun. And then I went into my first media agency. I was there for like 2 years. And then one of my bosses from my internship, when I was still in uni, was also in another media agency, and then he asked me to apply to his team. And then I
Recruit.
got, yeah, recruitment, ganyan. So I got in. Obviously, I wanted to work because he's really one of my best mentors. I think yung
Mhm.
mentorship and following your bosses is also a good takeaway. He was one of my good mentors. I went to that agency, spent almost 2 years there. During this time, the priority of making more money, essentially, mukha na akong pera by this time. I'm embracing it, but essentially, it grew. The pressure grew more because I had more responsibilities. You know, I'm a breadwinner, and the main goal was earn more, basically. And
Mm.
during this time in this media agency, I was working, one of my accounts was a regional account. So I was already working with someone here in Singapore. And they
Right.
got to see my work. They saw that I was doing a good job. And then because I was thinking of better opportunities, where can I earn more? I was asking the person I was working with here in Singapore, hey, meron bang like opening dyan sa Singapore? Unfortunately, the person I was working with was already leaving.
Mm.
So papalitan ko na lang pala siya essentially because they already know how I work, and you know, so ang bilis lang nun, sobrang ano din, it's a combination of hard work and then also luck because in-interview ako nung boss and kilala rin ako nung boss dito sa Singapore. The next day may offer na because
Wow, ang
yeah, ang
bilis.
bilis. And then nung I said yes na, after 2-3 weeks, I had the work permit, and then I was already in Singapore within less than a month. So,
Intense.
intense. Sobrang laking change, and hindi siya nag-sink in until like my first month here in Singapore. Sobrang ibang life na yung Singapore. And then Singapore, so I was still in a media agency but in a regional role, so bigger scope siya. And then during that time, I wanted to relive my dream of going into marketing. Kasi yun talaga yung training sa uni as like business administration, more marketing, more client side. So there was an
Mm.
opportunity that came in. So I go back to what are my goals, remember? So ito, nag-evaluate ako ng goals ko na ano ba yung gusto ko mag-client. So I look for an opportunity. I got into this big chocolate company. Um, maganda yung opportunity on paper, but then it was pandemic. So I got in, thankfully, very good company. But during the pandemic, and also there were a lot of struggles with my leadership, with the manager, the work itself. I was really struggling, reassess of goals again. And then the media agency called me. There's another account for me that they're offering, another promotion. And then I said yes. And then I'm back in the same agency 2 years. 2 years na actually since I went back from that. So that was that was a bit very long narrative, but yun yung journey. It's a lot of those where if you can observe, where really reassess, going back to my goals. Why,
Mm.
what else do I want, what else do I want to prioritize, and is this job giving me that? No, then I'm gonna look for another opportunity. And also a combination of luck and networking, because I didn't burn bridges with this agency when I left, and because
Right.
they still know that the work that I did, top of mind awareness na, oh, there's this account is good for EJ, let's call him up. And that was,
Yes.
yeah,
Siguro ang i-a-add ko dun, isa sa mga na-takeaway ko is, hindi lang siya luck kasi you actually ask that person, "Uy, meron bang opening diyan?" Like,
yes,
you are really looking for opportunities and hindi ka
correct,
nahihiya to ask and raise your hand for actually look for opportunities, 'di ba?
yeah,
So,
yeah,
yun siguro parang 'pag may nakita kayong opportunity, kahit walang nagha-high na opportunity, like all you need to do is ask. Parang yung
correct,
sinasabi nila, manifest sa universe. Go
correct,
out there and ask for it and it will be given to you. Pero kung mag-aantay ka
correct.
lang, medyo mahirap at matagal yung darating. So,
True,
yun
true.
yung isa sa takeaway ko doon. Okay, career goals. Ang dami mong sinasabi about career goals. Parang first job mo pa lang, very career goal-centric, ganyan. Ano yung mga triggers mo ng pagre-reassess? Or start pa lang ba, alam mo na talaga, parang before ako naghanap ng trabaho, alam ko na yung career goals ko in life, ganyan.
Nung nag-uumpisa ako, when I say career goals, um andun ako sa title and money. Yun yung focus ko
Right.
before. I wanted to have a good title to my name and then syempre back it up with good compensation.
As a fresh
Um,
grad.
as a
As a
fresh
fresh
grad.
grad.
And also like during my first years working, syempre meron kang like may pride ka na like
Yeah.
especially when you share to friends like, oh, I'm this title, I'm a senior manager, whatever. Um, so yun yung focus ko in terms of career goals and also trying to make a name for myself. If
Mhm.
I'm fulfilled with the work that I'm doing. Yun. Not to the point na saving the world because at the end of the day, yun na yung mantra ko ngayon actually. I'm not saving the world. So I should not burn out. But that time, I really want to be proud of the work that I'm doing. So yun yung nagda-drive sa akin. That's why whenever I reassess my goals and if the company still fit, those are the questions I ask. And yung nagtitrigger sa akin, most of the time, and I think our listeners can relate to this, burnout is very, very serious, especially if it hits you. It hits you unexpectedly also, like yung manifestations of burnout. And I
Mm.
hope you don't get to a point na nagugulat ka na lang and nagbe-breakdown ka, but you have to be more self-aware. Yun yung major trigger sa akin. Nagbe-burnout na ako. I feel overworked and then underpaid. So, usually, yun yung nagti-trigger, but then I go back to my goals. Um,
Mhm.
is this still fit for me? Am I still proud of the work I'm doing? Yun. And then from there, I find a better opportunity.
Yeah, okay. So, yun ba yung masasabi mo na parang biggest challenge mo pagdating sa career mo? Yung burnout talaga?
Yeah, I think so, especially in the agency industry kasi nga notorious siya for like overworking. It's essentially a service industry, much
Mhm.
like the F&B hospitality industry. It's servicing. So there's a certain set of skills that you have to have in an agency. Kailangan people pleaser ka, kailangan mahaba yung patience mo. And if you don't have that skill set, if you're not willing to build that skill set, it's really gonna hit you fast. I think the move to Singapore, one of the biggest career decisions, because before that, I never actually thought about working overseas. I've never worked
Hmm.
overseas. It's the first time.
Hindi mo siya
Just
pinangarap na
hindi ko
ano,
siya
hindi
pinangarap talaga as in
right.
because I'm an only child and I'm a breadwinner. So, ang fear ko was if iwanan ko yung parents ko, what if may mangyari? I'm not
Mm.
beside them. Yun yung
Right,
major,
it's a
major fear ko.
challenging oo,
Oo,
challenging decision din yun.
super, super. As in, pinag-iisipan ko talaga siya. But then I think what helped was I actually talked to my parents about it. And thankfully, they were very supportive for me. Because if you think about it, Singapore is actually an ideal location because it's like 3 hours, 3 hours, 30 minutes away from the Philippines. When I moved here, we were on FaceTime every week, every day, even when I was starting. So there was still communication and it was easier for me to go home. So pre-pandemic, actually, I was flying back and forth like every month, every 2 months for any occasion. May piyesta, uwi ako. May binyag, uwi ako.
Wow, ginawang palengke.
Ginawa akong
Ang
palengke.
galing naman nila
Yeah, yeah.
Singapore.
But yeah, so major decision siya because yung working culture is very different in Singapore. Yun yung talagang
Hmm.
eye-opener for me. Culture shock siya in a positive way. I still remember my first day. My first week actually, and then my boss, I was sitting beside my boss. It was 6 p.m. And then I was still working. Then my boss was like, why are you still here? Get out of the office at 6 p.m.
Grabe.
And I was like, ha? And then paglabas ko, kasi Singapore, 6 p.m. araw pa. Paglabas ko,
Umaga pa.
oo, may araw pa. Tapos sabi ko, oh my God, hindi ko alam gagawin ko. Because I'm used to going out of the office ng 11 p.m., between 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. I'm like, so yun, major shift siya. And work-life balance. Cliche as it may
Hmm.
sound, work-life balance talaga yung na achieve ko dito when I moved here.
Yeah, so masasabi mo ba na that decision of moving to a different country for your career, na-achieve mo yung career goal mo ngayon na work-life balance?
Definitely, it ticked off yung money goals because, we were earning much better now here in Singapore. Na-tick off yung career goals as like yung um, proud of the work that I'm doing because I get to work with
Mhm.
different markets now, not just Philippines. I get to work with our counterparts in Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand. There's so much more exposure within the company, and then outside of Singapore. So definitely ang dami niyang na-tick na boxes for me when I moved here, for sure.
Wow, good for you. Sobrang exciting. I'm sure very excited yung mga listeners natin. Paano ko rin yan
I know,
ma-achieve
I
yung
know. I
ganyan,
think
work-life balance,
I
financial
think
goals, and everything.
I think yung working overseas kasi is very daunting when you think about it kasi technically para ka mag-uproot ng life mo. Pero for me, if you assess where you are right now, if you think um you're in the like building up to the peak of your career, kung mobile ka
Mm.
naman, meaning wala ka pang family, kung if your situation is conducive for you to work overseas, I recommend for you to try it if you are able to do it, if you can afford to do it. It's a very eye-opening experience, and if it doesn't work for you, then at least you tried.
Yes, and I think when you say afford, hindi naman siya yung financially afford, 'di ba?
No,
Parang
no,
there's
no,
a
yeah,
lot
yeah,
of factors around
for
it.
sure.
Yes, and doon naman sa mga, of course, not everyone, sabi mo nga, not everyone is parang can do na to
Yeah,
work abroad. It's not for
yeah,
everyone, first of all, and
correct,
iba-iba tayo ng situations.
correct.
For those who are in their career right now na not in the near future, not even thinking of moving outside, paano mo malalaman based from your experience kung yung situation na nandun sila, if they're burnout, they're stuck, is this still worth fighting for? Or do I need to
Mm,
give up na to find that work-life balance kung saan man yung next step ko, if it's
yeah.
outside the country or here in the Philippines?
I go back to, I've been saying this, yung like reassessing my goals. It always starts with that for me when I ask myself, go back to my goals. If you're stuck in your job right now, then you reassess your goals, right? Can you do something about it within your same job for you to still achieve your goals? Ako ang mantra ko
Right.
palagi, if you can still do something about it to change things within your same company or same job, do it first. Do the things that you can control. Because we also have a tendency to just quit on everything when everything becomes tough. But like what you said,
Yeah.
we should also ask for it, right? Yun sabi mo kanina. Ask for it. Mababa yung sweldo, ask for like a appraisal. Or if they don't give you, ask what you need to do for them to give you an appraisal. So do those steps. Alam mo yun, like start from your goals. What do I need to do? What can I change? What can I ask for so that I'm still aligned with my goals? Now, if you already tried doing the things that you can control and then nothing still changes, then I think it's a sign. It's already an answer for you to let go and find better opportunities. It sounds methodical, easier said than done, but because obviously when you're in that situation, masyado nang ang dami mong iniisip. That's why I always say go back to your roots, to your goals, because it grounds you and it reminds you why you're doing these things.
That's so nice. I think ang ganda rin nung sinabi mo na identify, prioritize
Yeah.
mo, identify mo kung ano yung mga gusto mo. Kasi you can never ask for something kung ikaw
Mm,
mismo hindi mo
hindi
alam
mo
kung ano yung
alam.
gusto mo.
Exactly.
Right, di ba?
Exactly.
So you have to identify what you want, what you need first. You
Correct.
align yourself, ano ba yung values mo. And then from there, you can really communicate. Ito yung gusto
Correct.
ko. This is what matters to me. Is this something that we can work with?
Yeah.
And then if they say no, at least you tried. Sabi mo kanina, 'di ba? And then you know
Correct.
that it's not something na matutugunan kung nasaan ka man ngayon and it's time to
Exactly.
look for another role.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, eto, sobrang exciting. Work-life balance, living in a different place and all. Ano pa bang mga goal ng isang someone who's already in your level?
Grabe naman, parang ang taas ko na sa level kong 'to.
Uy,
Um,
pero 'di ba, alam naman natin na parang lahat kasi, parang ginugol talaga natin work-life balance, more money, and
yeah,
then na-check
yeah.
na 'yun lahat sa'yo. Ano pa?
Actually, I'm in a very good place right now, and I'm very, very lucky that I got to this place na I'm already thinking about my life goals in general. And I already know that my career is just my means to achieve my life goals. Because I think when we were younger, we were living to work. But now I'm working to live. It's very, very different. And obviously, breadwinner, ganyan, kailangan ko talagang kumayod and everything. But now that medyo nakaluwag-luwag na tayo, may time na ako, may allowance na ako to really think about my future as a whole. Not just a career person, but as a partner, as a son. So, like retirement plans, alam mo yun? So, nag-evolve na yung goal setting ko right now to where do I want to be in the next 5 years, for example. So, I'm thinking about me and my partner, I think about moving to Australia eventually, you know? So, major life change na naman siya. Or, I'm getting my parents like health plans right now kasi wala silang insurance. So, once you step out of career, alam mo yun, like sobrang tunnel vision of like kailangan ganito, we
Hmm,
tend to forget the other parts of our lives, which are more important. And yeah, just a reminder also na if you take a step back and look at your life as a whole, your career, yes, you spend a lot of time in your career, pero it's always gonna be there. But family and friends are fleeting, and the more important people are like there waiting for you.
ang ganda. Okay, step back. Ano na ang ganda nung ano, now you're working to live. Ang
Yes.
exciting, 'di ba? You're
Yes.
not living to
Living
work,
to
you're
work.
now working to live. So,
Exactly.
sobrang exciting nun. I'm excited for you. And
Thank you.
again, dito sa Goals with Anne podcast, ang importante sa atin is to make sure that we act, do something about it for us to achieve it. Hindi pwede yung listen-listen lang tayo. Kailangan gagawin niyo talaga yung mga pinapakinggan niyo dito para maka-move forward kayo in life. Hindi yung
Mm.
listen-listen lang. So, EJ, ano yung actionable advice na mabibigay mo sa listeners natin na after nilang gawin kung anong ginagawa nila ngayon while listening to this, magkakaroon sila ng clarity sa next
Yeah.
steps para sa
May
career goals
enlightenment.
nila. True.
By the way, I love this section, actionable advice, because personally, when people ask me for advice or like even at work, pag, like when we give recommendations, I always use actionable. I hate motherhood statements. Alam mo yan.
Hmm,
Like, oh, do your best. Mga ganon. Or like,
true.
I don't know, like I want to make sure I can do something, actually act on it. So actionable advice, paulit-ulit na ako since kanina. I think really important yung priorities mo, list it down, priorities and goals. Literally, like you should have a document, I don't know, a paper that you will refer to every time. List it down. What are your goals at this stage of your life? Be honest with yourself. Is it money? You don't have to be ashamed if mukha kang pera, because at the end of the day,
Yun
pamahal ng
talagang
pamahal ang presyo.
bumubuhay.
Exactly.
The
Um,
inflation.
money, is it your title? Is it you want to spend time with your family more? If kung nandun ka na sa life stage, be as honest as you can when you list this down, because when you have a crossroads in front of you, you can go back to this list and think about it. Which are my non-negotiables? Ito pa yung importante. Non-negotiables and negotiables. I have a lot of friends when we talk about career and then like thinking about moving to the next job, and they think about the offer. So lagi kong tinatanong, non-negotiable ba to? Because if yes, and hindi nila inoffer, edi no na dapat because it's a non-negotiable, right? So you have the list, you have to be firm with the list. It's
Hmm.
kind of like your main Bible, if I may say. Because it
Accountability body mo yung list na yon.
yan, ganyan. Very, very important tool. And I say tangible kasi minsan iniisip lang natin. Pero iba pa din yung meron kang literal list in front of you or like a document. Super important kasi if you have a job prospect, you go back to that when you look at the offer. Na-check niya ba itong goal na to? Yes, yes. Okay. And then you can decide from there. Stick to the list. Reevaluate the list kung nag-iiba ka ng life stage, but don't make the list adjust for your next job. Your next job should adjust to the list. Tongue twister naman yon. Gets nyo ba? Yung list ay firm. So, hindi mo dapat ina-adjust yung non-negotiables. Bigla na lang, ay, okay lang pala na konti lang yung pera ko, basta ganito. So, you're not honest with your priorities, therefore. So, it
Mm,
starts with
right.
this. Yeah, I think yun. Super
Okay, ang
helpful.
ganda. Tsaka ano, hindi siya out of this world. Hindi siya mahirap gawin.
It's not
Like,
rocket science. Yes.
yes, yes, it's not rocket science. All you need to do is a pen and a paper or kahit sa phone mo, sa kahit saan ka, kung nasan ka man, nasa bus ka, nagta-travel ka 2 to 3 hours,
Correct.
ang dami mong time. You can, alam mo yun, pwede ka nang magsimulang gawin yung list na yan. Hindi mo
Yes.
kailangan ng 8 hours. So,
Yes.
pwedeng-pwede mo na yan gawin right
I think,
now.
ang mas importante dito is, yun nga, honest ka sa sarili mo and you're firm with what your goals are. I think yun lang naman yung mag-change dun eh. Kasi nga, may mga tao na just because ang ganda on paper nung job, kino-compromise nila yung goals nila. And then they end up
Ah,
regretting because hindi naman pala siya aligned sa goals. But in the first place, inadjust mo kasi yung goals mo, di ba?
mm.
So you go back, always go back. And that's what I was telling you nun sa journey ko din, di ba?
Gusto ko lang ibalik dun sa negotiables and non-negotiables and i-tie up dun sa sabi mo na initial goals mo is title, 'di ba? Para
Yeah.
okay, meron kang magandang title, pero yung mga kasama ng magandang title nun ay yung mga non-negotiables mo, hindi nila
Mm,
mami-meet. So,
mm,
challenging yon. Pero
correct,
because you have that list of your negotiables and non-negotiables, dun ka pwedeng mag-cling on when you're making that decision
correct,
kung ia-accept mo ba tong offer na to because of the good title pero hindi niya maa-achieve yung mga non-negotiables mo. Ang
correct.
ganda nun.
O, di ba?
Okay. So, ayan, we're at the end of this episode and I really, really enjoyed this conversation. I
Me
hope all of the
too.
listeners na enjoy nyo din at ang dami nyong napulot like me. And just to quickly summarize yung main points, kung kailangan nyo mag-notes ng 1, 2, 3, number 1 is identify your career goals. Ano talaga yung nagmamatter sa inyo? I think isa sa mga takeaways ko is before ka pa magsimula talaga sa
Mm,
career mo, magandang clear na yan.
yeah.
Number 2 is to ask for it. Really go
Mm,
out there, get the opportunities. Kasi na-identify mo na, di ba? Sabi natin kanina, you can't ask for something na hindi mo naman alam kung ano gusto mo.
mm,
So, once you identify that, go out, ask for it, build your network, and really just go out and open the opportunities. Let the opportunities come to you.
mm,
And then number 3 is yung actionable items natin. Yung list down your priorities and identify, be honest with yourself, what are your non-negotiables and your negotiables, and stick to that list. Use it as
yes.
your anchor in your
Yes.
decision making pagdating sa
Anchor.
career goals mo. Yes. So, yan. I challenge you guys to do our actionable item and tag at Goals with Anne on social media para meron tayong accountability dyan sa mga
Yes.
excitement na nararamdaman natin ngayon. Okay? Okay. And as part of our episode, we answer questions from our listeners. If you enjoy this episode, you have questions, ayan, just tag us with your questions and maybe we'll answer it in our future episodes. So this question is coming from Frimcell. And her question about career is like, what are effective ways to network and build my professional relationship para makatulong sa akin to advance in my career? So, three tips from me: know your industry. Iba-iba tayo ng ginagalawan na industriya, iba-iba yung mga places where we hang out, where we communicate, some kind of social media. May social media na mas madami sa Facebook, sa industry na yon, LinkedIn. Know that sa nagko-communicate. Join groups, join communities, join conversations and meetups, and connect with people directly. Pag may nakita ka na nilulook up mo na mentor or someone, send a message. Again, babalik tayo sa kanina. Just go out there, get
Yeah.
the opportunity, send a message. You can, it's a very short message like, hi, I look up to you. I'm impressed with your career. Is it okay if I ask 30 minutes of your time to learn from you and get tips from you? It's a very short message na I don't think people naman will say, no, I don't want to share my story, di ba?
Yeah.
So, I'm sure you'll get good responses from that. Ikaw, EJ, any answers or tips for Fremsel?
Actually, super helpful nung sinabi mo, especially yung messaging yung mga people you look up to. Super na-try ko na 'yun before, and ang sarap ng feeling na you get it from directly from the person. For me, take advantage of your social circles. Really, lowest hanging fruits for me, because you already have your set of friends, right? Different sets of friends. Especially at our age, everyone's working, everyone's in a different industry. Just be mindful of, like, this certain friend has a common friend na working the same industry, so you might know people. Find associations, find connections. Very good example: weddings. We are at a wedding age. I have a lot of friends who are getting married or who got married. So they would invite their colleagues also, and then you all meet up. It's a very casual environment. You chat them up, and then you find connections. And then from there, who knows? They might know your future boss, or you might know a certain person na makakatulong sa career mo. But I think be mindful of your connections, of your social circles, and act on it if you find an opportunity.
That's really good. Totoo yan. Take advantage of mga socials natin. Hindi na lang tayo
Yeah,
socials lang.
correct.
Networking na yan at this day and age. Use
Exactly.
that as an opportunity. Okay, I think that wraps up our episode. Anything you'd like to add, EJ, before we fully wrap up?
No, I'm super thankful that I got to share my story. I mean, you and I, whenever we chat, ang sarap ng feeling to discuss our insights about our careers. I think we're both achievers. Ang dami nating hanash about the career, but the fact that etong discussion na to, it will be able to help other people also and spark other discussions. I think at least napupuntahan yung chikahan natin. And I'm super duper
True.
proud of you that you went into this path. I'm very optimistic na ang daming matutulungan ito. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you. Thanks, EJ. Nakaka-excite din. I mean, we've
Yeah,
been friends for 16 years.
16 years.
'Di ba? So, sobrang thank you for being my first guest and one of my biggest supporters sa lahat ng mga challenges and
Yes.
shifts in life. So, I'm really, really happy that and privileged na makasama ka dito sa podcast ko. So, yeah, thank you so much, EJ. And we really hope na makatulong tong episode sa mga listeners natin. I hope na-motivate and excited kayo sa takeaways and action items natin for this episode. To be always updated on our ganaps, don't forget to follow me on IG, Facebook, TikTok, and you can also watch this episode on YouTube at Goals with Anne for your daily dose of motivation. To connect with accountability buddies and find your tribe, join ka na rin to our private goal achievement community, Act to Achieve PH on Facebook. If natuwa ka, na-inspire ka, or na-excite ka ulit sa buhay because of this episode, let me know by giving it a rating and following the podcast. Just go to the podcast page if you're on Spotify, click follow, then click the ratings and give your feedback. 5 seconds lang. It can go a long way in showing support, get this podcast discovered by more people, and you might just help others achieve their goals too. Stay tuned until next time. Thank you for listening. Don't forget, you need to act to achieve.